today's conversation. I would like you to please go to our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and please do like our page, follow our pages, and also give us comments where you feel that you need to comment or you want to comment on anything. But again, do visit our website, Contemporary Conversations SA, where you'll find more information on our books, documentaries, masterclasses, and blogs, where you can also participate. Please do follow us, Contemporary Conversations SA, in all our social media platforms. But back to the podcast for today, I would like to introduce my most esteemed and important guest, Neziwe Nkukwana, who's going to be taking us through an important topic, contemporary topic related to gender power imbalances. Neziwe is a gender activist. Welcome, Neziwe.
Thank you. Thank you, Putwam.
Okay. All right. Maybe just to kick off, some of us, we normally hear, people talk about gender activism and the fact that they are gender activists. But some of us perhaps have never really engaged in terms of what is a gender activist, what is gender activism. Maybe can you just educate us on that as to what is meant by gender activism, or maybe what is a gender activist?
A gender activist, it is a response to try and raise your voice against social ills.
Okay.
It could be anything. Activism is either you are standing for something or against something.
Okay.
So gender activism is exactly that.
Okay.
It is a voice, a response to a situation or an idea that you do not align with.
But would it specifically relate to issues around gender?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What would you say to someone that, because a lot of us that are not yet educated around gender activism, people would think that gender activism is about talking about what men do to women that is wrong, and therefore that's what the gender activist does. If you are a gender activist, you are someone that is against what men are doing and all this stuff. Would it be a correct interpretation that that's gender activism, or is it part of what gender activism would be, but gender activism is broad?
Yes, it's part of. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
It's part of that.
Okay.
Just to add, it is because I'm here and we're talking about this.
Yes.
It is me as Neziwe and other women.
Okay.
Standing against the social ills created by men.
Okay.
Yes. There are gender activists that you would find which are men.
Okay.
Who are saying they are using their voices, they are responding to a social ill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not only women.
Okay.
It so happened that you'll find in this case, in point, that it is women who are standing because of
some of the social ills,
which are mostly impacting women.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you clarified that, because some of us think that when you talk about gender activism, this is something that is done mostly by women. It's not done by males, and usually, like I said earlier on, it's women that would be voicing out their dissatisfaction or anger over things that are done by men. I'm glad that you're saying that men too can be.
The scale is not the same, hey? The scale is not the same. It's mostly women, but you just find a handful of men. But definitely you can find male or men who are gender activists.
Okay. If I may ask and say, what are some of the things that you would find gender activists would be focusing on in terms of some of the social ills, for instance, that you spoke about?
We'll focus on the hottest topic right now, gender-based violence. The other one, it would be access to equal opportunities. It is just based around that. And I think when we speak of access, then we'll sit to say, let's unpack what do we mean by access. It is me coming up as a woman, or any woman coming up, and you want to occupy a certain space, and you find that you are not able to occupy that certain space, not because you do not have the ability to, just because you're a woman, And talking about gender-based violence, which is GBV, you'd find that that's where mostly right now, that's where you will find across all platforms, women are raising their voices in different means and in different ways. One of that is being me, it's me being here and trying to have the conversations really going, to say that we need to talk about these things. We need to create a space for these conversations without having fear, as women. There's many things we could do. At some point, we would organize marches. We would try and disturb business as usual because we feel that we are not heard enough or action is not being taken to make it a point that we are safe. Okay. And maybe let's break it down. What do we mean by that? You would find that there is gender activism. If we were not finding ourselves there, I doubt there would be. Maybe there would be another cause where we are fighting for children's rights, for an example. But because of the imbalances, because of the inequities, we're finding ourselves having to be activists.
Okay. If I may then just go back and say, because of these imbalances, what have been some of the results or the consequences in terms of the society in general that have resulted from the gender power imbalances?
In society as general, look, maybe we should just start from discussing Uba, why is it that a girl child is treated differently from a boy child?
Okay.
Yeah? Okay. Let's start there from the root cause. When a boy child is born, there's too much celebration and expectation, and as compared to a girl child is not seen. I will say that, and then it goes further to say that at the end of the day that women are treated as second-class citizens. Yeah? A girl's voice is not heard. Yeah? I remember back in the day, I don't know if that's still happening, but, when you are, engaging people and having these conversations, we seemingly have, the same story to tell. When we were growing up as young girls, because before I became a woman, I was a girl, an instance where even at home, ekaya, right, there are certain chores that are only, that are put out there just for a girl child to do. You really cannot stay stay out until late, because you must come back home and switch on the lights. Yeah? Whereas a boy child is expected to go about their business anyhow, because he's a man, he's a boy. He doesn't have to wash dishes. So you're seeing it from there, from that foundational level. Yeah? And therefore, when you become a member of society, it's as if as a woman right now, you are already in this position where you see yourself as the society sees you. You are told that you cannot do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Men are embraced and celebrated more. A man's voice is final. So those are the impacts, negative impacts that you would see. So it's that, and it comes from home, then it goes to the community, then it goes to institutions, for an example, where whenever you're a woman, you need to be aware that you're a woman. The way you dress, the way you present yourself. There's a positive and a negative of it, and I'm speaking from a negative element of it. That we never really had a sense of finding ourselves to no, I belong. My voice matters. I can be anything that I want to be. Yeah.
Would you then, I'm listening to you and I find that you're actually looking at the different aspects in terms of a society where you can actually pinpoint some of these gender imbalances. You move from home, you move to society, you move to workplaces, you moved, in all aspects of society where you find that, there are gender power imbalances.
Yes.
Now, okay, you've spoken about the cause that maybe even in terms of how we are raised or socialized, that is entrenched in terms of that. One of the things that sometimes come up in discussions, maybe with other people that I have in the circles that I actually move across, is a question that says, is gender equality an achievable target or an elusive target because of the entrenched roles that we have as men and women in terms of the society, but not only in terms of the society, but because of also our natural inborn inclinations or primal instinct that as a woman, these are the things that you will be looking for. And therefore, you are drawn towards that.
Yeah.
And as a man, these are the things that I would be drawn to because, again, of either socialization or perhaps inborn inclination or primal instinct. That perhaps gender power imbalance, including perhaps gender equality, will always be an elusive target because of that. What are your thoughts around that?
If your question is gender equality achievable, right? It definitely is achievable. We don't have to forsake our roles.
Okay.
If, for an example, you are a man, I'm a woman. I'm not expecting you to carry a child. You are unable to do that. You were not, born with that ability. The issue I have is that the same preferred treatment that is shown towards men, can it be shown to women?
Okay.
Right? I spoke about access earlier on.
Okay.
I spoke about the way we are raised because that foundational level is very critical.
Okay.
So it's not elusive. It is possible. It is doable. I think what is important is that we need to understand and define the roles. What is the role of a man and what is the role of a woman, right? Without biases, just be clear, define them. And maybe let's just make examples as we go along the topic so that, people can relate. There is an issue of cooking,
Okay.
To say that because I'm born a girl, therefore automatically, or I have a womb, therefore I need to be looking after a home. Even the way I was brought up being trained to look after, to be able to look after a home, to cook and do all those things. I can do that. I acknowledge that I can do that. But so is a man. A man can cook. And men can stand and cook. It shouldn't be about, no, it's your duty, therefore do it. I think that if we could just sit down as a community and talk to say, okay, this is what is expected. These are generic things that both parties can, are able to do. But specifically, this is a function and order. This is a function of a man. This is a function of a woman.
Okay.
So that we then do away with these inequalities. Okay. Make an example. There were cases that they were dealing with recently. It's not a recent thing, but the number of teenage pregnancies have gone very high up. But you'll find that the experience has taught us that once a girl child falls pregnant, you are required to leave school and stay at home. Yes, you are pregnant and you must raise a child, while the boy child continues with his life. We see it from there. Yeah. Why is it that you don't bring both parties in to say, yes, she's carrying a baby, she's pregnant, but when time comes where she needs to look after a baby, you need to be there as well and be part of the child's life. Why is it that the boy child is expected to continue, with life and continue and progress, while the girl child's life is stagnant because they have to look after the baby? So it's things like that. I'm hoping you're getting the picture.
I hear you.
So these imbalances, we need to sit down and we need to look at them, right? And we need to ask ourselves, for us to live harmoniously in peaceful communities, what it is that we need to do. Yeah. Because the reason why we are here today, it is because as women we had to yell, we had to march, we had to, fight with some of the institutions to say, but why are men treated this way and women are not treated this way? Why are men headhunted for certain positions, for an example, in corporate? And, you don't see women there, not because they're not able to do the job, it's because a man is a preferred candidate, because he's a man and he's not going to be giving us issues, he's not going to be taking maternity leave, he's not going to be telling us that he's rushing off to go fetch umntana esikolweni.
I hear you. Have we, however, as a society, according to maybe how you see things, moved in terms of coming closer to having a bit of balance? Or are we still far off in terms of creating a balance amongst genders in terms of the society?
I would say we have moved, but we have not made much progress in the moving. Yes, things have gotten better, right? But we have not made much progress. Maybe we are sitting at about 30-35%. Okay. Because one of the things that we've adopted as society is to mask and put a a makeup on. Yeah.
Okay.
But you know when there's inequality to say no. This is not right. This is inequality. This is not right. So it seems, at some instances, it seems like we've moved. Yes, we need to acknowledge that percent, but it's not, the gap is still there.
Okay.
You know, in other industries, in other sectors, the gap is still there.
Yeah. So would I then be correct in terms of saying that when we talk about, say, we want to have gender equality and gender balance in terms of our society, it is not, because it's sometimes misinterpreted as people think that we're talking about gender sameness. We can never achieve gender sameness, but we're just talking about, like you said, if you're talking about access to resources, you know,
opportunities,
access to same opportunities,
yeah.
Same access in terms of law, the laws that exist in terms of the country, in terms of also how we're treated in terms of the society. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
You know. And again, if I can go back to this is something that troubles me all the time, and maybe you can help me with this. That yes, we talk about gender equality. I mean, maybe I've asked this question earlier on, and maybe I'm going back to it again.
Let's hear it.
That is gender equality really an attainable target? When I look at the fact that, let's look at a relationship, for instance, between a man and a woman, that the expectations, general expectations, yes, I'm generalizing, it could be different from one person to the next, but the general expectations from a woman was that I will be in a relationship with a man that I can admire, that I can look up to, not as in worshipping, no, but I can admire but look up to.
Yes.
And me looking up to that man simply means that this is a man that possibly can provide, even though I'm working, and we can join forces in terms of raising kids and all the stuff, but he can provide. A man that can be able to protect. Man that can be able to protect. And here, when you talk about protection, we're not talking only about physical protection.
Yes.
We're talking about emotional and psychological protection.
Yes.
A man that can lead and inspire. Those are the things that a man, for instance, that would be carrying. These are the things that I would be looking for from a man. And in return, you'd find that when you speak to a lot of men, in terms of what they would be looking for in terms of the relationship, they would say, okay, at the uppermost in terms of what I'm looking for in terms of the relationship, I'm looking for someone who can be able to respect and honor me as a man. Okay, and the second thing is sexual intimacy. That's what I want. That's what they was. But now I'm asking and say, based on the fact that we seem to naturally be inclined to be looking for different things in terms of a relationship, is it possible, therefore, to have gender equality if we are looking for the different things in a relationship, not the same thing in the relationship?
It's attainable. I just want to go back to the example that you have mentioned. Yes, in relationships, women are looking for a man who is a leader, right? Let's call it in one package, who's a leader.
Okay.
In return, a man is looking for a woman that will be able to respect.
Okay.
So those are our primary functions.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the primary functions. I can be a woman and respect my man and still possess my softness as a woman, right? That's me exercising my right in this relationship. Could we not call that equality?
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Because I'm respecting you because you've shown me respect as a leader. So I'm taking what you've given and I'm working with that.
Yeah.
I think that's equality.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Sexual intimacy, that's a quality. That's achievable. Working towards the same goals in a relationship, lending each other, in lebe and ear and hearing each other out, the communicate. That's a quality.
Okay. All right.
What it is not going to be achievable in relationships is when the other one thinks they've got an upper hand to the other one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But would I be correct in then saying, however, I'm not sure whether perhaps this is based on how traditional we've been raised, or perhaps it is really our inborn inclination as human beings that a woman in a relationship will always be looking at a man to say, I need to be in a man that can be able to lead, like you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And therefore, leading sometimes entails, yes, there's going to be discussions and consultation, but sometimes it would be me going forward with and showing leadership.
Yes.
So in that sense, if I do that, am I seen as someone that is not creating the balance? If I take things and say, as a man, I'm acting in a manly manner, and therefore I'm taking the leadership that is required in terms of the home. Because we can discuss things until, cows come home. But at the end of the day, someone then needs to say, or both of us need to say, but this then needs to go. Is that an example then of an imbalance? If I say, at the end of the day, we've discussed this thing for 15 months or for
now we need
5
to now we need to make a decision.
Now we need to move. Me, as the man, I say this is what needs to happen. Does that indicate an imbalance, or does that indicate what, yes, there has been a discussion and therefore balance has been created through that discussion, and therefore, yes, you can now take the lead? Maybe
now the discussion has been had.
Yes.
Between both parties.
Yes.
A woman has had her say.
Yes.
And there's been an agreement that has been reached, but this is why we're moving.
Yes.
Now the decision is who's going to take that forward.
Yeah.
It could be a woman, it could be a man.
Okay.
It really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because look at it this way. This is a partnership. A discussion has been had.
Yeah.
A woman's voice has
Yes.
been raised. She's been given access to this conversation.
Okay.
Right? Her opinions matter, for an example. So I'm inclined to say the latter example that you've made, that's what always works in building healthy relationships.
Okay.
And ensuring that there's that balance.
Okay.
Right? To do away with an imbalance. An imbalance, in my case, I would see it as, in a context of a relationship, yes, we need a house, we need to move. Then a man comes to say, I've seen a house and I've bought it. I did not ever say. In him choosing. That's where the imbalance comes in.
Okay.
It's not being acknowledged to bring something on the table as a woman and to be actually heard. And that is why you find Abantu City women are emotional. Yeah? But why do you raise your voice? It is because of not being given that opportunity or manyelwa or be seen. Because I am part of this. As I said, do not take me as a second-class citizen. Let's have a discussion. Let my opinion matter in the decision-making. Yeah.
But I'm glad you mentioned that let your opinion matter.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that your opinion needs to be the only opinion that matters, that from both of us as men and women in those relationships.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that only one opinion should matter. Such that, for instance, if I disagree, then there's going to be sulking and there's going to be a situation where I'm seen as someone that is not accommodating and all that stuff and not creating the balance because I did not agree.
Look, we will not always agree.
Yeah.
That's a practicality, right? And the nature of relationships.
Yeah.
There'll always be, disagreements. And there's always going to be sulking.
Yes.
We are dealing with two individuals who were raised differently. Remember the way you were raised when I put the context?
Yeah.
Who were raised differently. Because you would find, but even at times when I'm being roped into the discussion or into the consultation, a man has already made up his mind. Ufuna nje uvuba, what do you have to say?
Yes.
But okusalai.
Yeah.
So that is why I'm saying, Uba, let my opinion matter.
Yes.
And therefore, if we find that, we are not reaching the common ground, let's find an alternative solution to make it a point that we move in agreement.
Yeah. Let's tackle some of the thorny areas around gender. The power imbalances. And I want to talk about gender-based violence.
Yeah.
And later on, I want us to talk about rape.
Okay.
That's one of the areas where you'd find that there's a lot that is being said around those areas, which obviously results from gender power imbalance. In fact, in other words, those social ills come or result from gender power imbalances. What is the opinion? Because I normally do hear people talk about gender-based violence, but to use Bishop Desmond Tutu's words, where he said we should stop pulling people out of the river, but we need to go upstream and find out as to why are they falling in the first place.
The root cause.
The root causes.
Yeah.
So I think for me, one of the areas that I would like us to talk about is this gender-based violence and say, that's the area that sometimes is said to be the one that results from gender power imbalances. And what are some of the causes that are putting us in this river that I spoke about earlier on? Let's go upstream and find out. What are some of these gender power imbalances that then result to gender-based violences from an activist's point of view, or from just Neziwe's point of view?
Look, it is a, and maybe I can use my personal experience.
Okay.
Maybe I can use this platform as well to share my personal experience and what I took from that. When you get into a relationship, because we're talking in the context, it is a thorny issue and it has a lot of pockets. So we need to then, cut and, dissect. But we're talking in the context here, relationships.
Okay.
When you get into a relationship, you need to know exactly what it is that you're doing. As I said earlier, the roles needs to be clearly defined, so that you're both aware what is it that you're doing. And you need to be practical about things and not be emotional. I know I'm repeating on your last podcast where you say sometimes let's put emotions aside. Yes, I like this guy. Yeah, this is a cute guy.
Yeah.
Where is he's my type, he's my person. Fine. But beyond that, what is it that you are doing? Beyond that, what is it that you are building? What is the goal that you're trying to achieve? I feel, as Neziwe, that's where sometimes we miss the mark.
Okay.
Yeah?
Explain some more.
Wait, I hope I'm not digging a hole for myself
No,
here, because I'm
not,
saying
you're
it.
definitely not. Go ahead.
I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to use this is not an example, it's a real life experience.
Okay.
I met my ex-husband. I think I was young. I think I was 24. And, at that point, I was not really thinking of a, permanent relationship, a year later, marriage. But I lost an opportunity to ask the relevant questions I needed to ask then. Right? I lost an opportunity to get to know this person. And because I did not ask these questions, I lost an opportunity to meet his friends, to see the other side of him, to see the other identity that he carries through his friends that is not necessarily displayed when we are together. Yeah? I was aware of the background that he was coming from, and I missed an opportunity to ask that, since you've gone through these traumas, what help did you go and seek? All I was excited about and all I was looking forward to, just like any young woman. I met a man. He says he loves me. I see that he loves me. He wants to build a home with me. Why not? It's a good picture, right? It's emotions everywhere. You then fail to ask questions when you're given that opportunity to say, what is our 3-year goal? In terms of our spirituality, in terms of finances, how do we empower and develop ourselves? And I got into this union and things started revealing themselves. The first incident, when it happened, when I should have walked away, I decided to stay. Why? Because I've seen that at home. I've seen it in society. I remember when I was being ukialwa, and that's about advice, when a bride is about to, is about to get married, the elderly women sit with you down to say, do not, which is another topic for another day. Because just as I digress to make a comment, while abafazi to be, or women or brides to be eyalwa, goba nabayala madoda. To create
who
the
guides
balance,
the men,
who guides the men, to create the balance, because there's imbalance even in that entire process. As I said, it was just a short left. So back to my story. So I got into this union, and when the first incident happened, I decided to stay. When the second incident happened, I decided to stay. And
when you say incident, what are you referring to?
I'm talking about violence.
Okay.
I'm talking about ubetwa.
Okay.
Right?
Being beaten. Okay.
Yes, being beaten. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that at that point I had an opportunity, because what I thought this was, it wasn't. Now I was dealing with a man, with a practical person in front of me. I was dealing with his fears. I was dealing with his failures as a person. I was dealing with an entire human being. And, you know, it's as if when I was going through that, I had forgotten even the family structures that we were coming from.
Okay.
How different that was. And how we then bring the everything that we are brought up with into this union. Yeah? So, and then years gone by, the divorce happened, years gone by, and I sat and I'm like, I should have asked the questions. I should have said, no, I do not want to be with you as yet, because I'm not, you know, happy, or I need clarity to be provided in point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And you find that, but it is that fear sometimes of not wanting to ask, because you know the answer, but you told yourself, but as long as we are both quiet, it's okay. You can see stuff happening, but you're afraid to ask the questions.
So in other words, you're wearing a mask, therefore.
Yes, it's this mask.
Throughout the relationship.
Yes,
then.
it's this mask that you're wearing. And Mhlambi, it is not being equipped on how to deal with these things, on how to ask these things, you know. So those are the opportunities as Uneziwe that I've missed. I'm not saying that he was right with what he did, but I had to sit back and look at myself and say, what did I do to allow that?
Okay. So in other words, you're saying that in terms of the gender power imbalances that you exist around the whole era around gender-based violence, one also comes from the fact that we don't engage right at the beginning to make sure that we're clear in terms of this creature that I'm getting into a relationship with, and make sure that I know, which obviously, I mean, if you look at the previous podcast that we had, we spoke about the fact that relationships are transactional by nature.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, that we need to be able to be upfront with each other and block, to a certain extent, the emotive brain and bring the thinking brain right at the beginning, because it helps us in terms of ensuring that we are clear with each other in terms of what is it that we're getting into. Because at the end of the day, the butterflies fly away. After some time,
the butterflies end.
Yeah, they fly away, and you are then left with the real person now that you need to deal with. And then you might find that you are with a monster. Yeah. You are not with the butterflies that you fell in love with. Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad you're mentioning that. And because sometimes when we talk about gender-based violence, and some people that have heard me speak even on some of the podcasts, I sometimes also blame men in terms of the very thing that you have mentioned, that we have this thing sometimes that we believe, and I know where it comes from, that if I do certain things, then therefore this woman owes me because I've done A, B, C, T, and up to Z, and I've bought her a car, bought her property, I've taken her on holidays and all this stuff. Things that in some instances she did not ask for. You're the one that volunteered to actually do those things. Yeah. She wasn't looking for those things, but you volunteered and said, I'm going to do that. And naturally, unfortunately, it's one of the bad traits that men have. And I know where it comes from. It comes from naturally how we're born. I mean, if you look at males, whether it's animals, and you look at us as human beings, in order to woo a female,
you must come across as an alpha.
You need to come out as an alpha. Yes, you need to be an exhibitionist. That's why you find that some of them in some of these establishments popping bottles and washing with expensive bottles of wine and champagnes and all this stuff, because it's a exhibitionist behavior that males have to say, look at me, I'm the alpha male. Yes. But the most important thing for women that I think they also need to understand is that they need to be very careful of such behavior.
To my example, to my story earlier on, you are focusing on the outer man so much that you don't know what this person from the inside is bringing, which is what we need to build this thing, which is what is required to sustain the entire union, right? And you know, that's why I responded in one of the chats that you sent me something. I'm like, no, we must blame men with this, because another movement that we've seen happening, to your point, is men luring young women or any other woman using materialistic stuff, right? You are being bought, you know, to come into this thing. But you do not want to be with this person. And when this person now realizes that you do not want to be with them, what do? They're using their power, as
physical
men,
power.
Physical power, you know, to now start abusing you. If they say that they can't touch you, they can physically abuse you. It's emotional abuse. You know, they are messing up with your psychology. They just mess up with you. You are in an abusive relationship. If those are the terms, because it's more like, I've given you these things, therefore you are mine. In another instance, we need to, at some point, I know this is just a broad topic,
yes,
and we'll not be able to finish it within an hour. I mentioned lobola negotiations at some point to say, or maybe this is the first time I'm mentioning it, we need to understand, because you see, Mbulelo, when you start having a conversation with a person that you want to build with, a person that you want to be, give yourself to and build this thing, it's important to have these conversations. Because there are other things that you would ask where another party, either a man or a woman, will not be able to answer. Yeah? And having these conversations and doing life together, even before taking a step further, it will give you an opportunity to suss out, is this really what I want? Yeah. And then we need to go back to defining what was the cultural significance of us doing lobola negotiations. Because in marriage situations, you know, a few people that I've spoken to, they are saying, but men have got this idea that just because, you know, they paid cows for me, therefore they own me. Yeah? We need to define those things, because mainly what we're talking about here, gender, imbalances leading to GBV, it's protected and mainly to do with our culture. It's protected, it's promoted from a very young age, and it is to do with our culture. There's things that we need to sit down and we need to have these hard conversations to say, what was the intent of lobola? Masiqale up, right? And while we're doing that, let's define about what is the responsibility of a man. Because I believe that in the olden days, men were taught about your responsibility is to protect and love your family. Yes, you might be a leader, you might be this, but your responsibility is to love and protect your family. And your family includes your wife, and your wife has a voice. And then you sit back and you ask yourself, but what changed?
That's a good question, and I would love maybe in future podcasts for us to really explore that. Because in the last podcast that is still going to come out, we have looked at what has changed in terms of our values and morals.
Yes.
As a society. Do we still have morals as we used to call them morals, or are we now living our lives based on our own personal principles rather than communally agreed morals and values? So I think that's something that is quite profound that we need to look at, because if we continue to do some of these practices like lobola, like you're saying, we need to understand the significance of such practices in terms of relationships, and not do them for the sake of doing them because it was done, but we don't understand the significance of that. But part of what probably is lacking in terms of that is the existence of people to guide us in terms of some of these things, because we are busy with other things. We sort of now distracted in terms of us as a society. There are certain things that we're focusing on instead of the things that matter in terms of building
We don't
societies.
talk about these things, and we're finding women having to not be women. As I said, my softness is supposed to be my weapon. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing as beautiful like a calm woman. When you are calm, it doesn't.
I know that's that's true.
It's beauty and
as a man,
strength, and that's strength. And I wonder if a lot of women, they realize this, the calmness, the softness. But going back to men will then come back and complain about the reason why I'm beating this woman is because she's talking back to me. Yes, you're supposed to talk back to you. You're supposed to have disagreements. And another thing that we are missing in relationships is that we evolve and we grow. I'm not the 24 years old that you met back when.
Yes.
I'm a woman and I grow and I see things differently. And when I see things differently, I'll come back and I'll say, and I'll challenge some of the things that's been done to say, how about you do it like this, because this way it's no longer serving a purpose, right? I'm supposed to be challenging you because we're growing together. It's not supposed to then form, that disconnect that then results into, the physical abuse. But, moving there, then we need to, look at why are men complaining? Because yes, there is GBV that is happening. But every complaint that a man brings to say, no, but she's changed, no, but she's strong. Why can't women be strong when they are left with no choice but to be strong?
Maybe explain that when say they are left with no choice.
But to be
what
strong.
exactly men do that leaves women needing to be strong?
Because men have forsaken their position.
Exactly. Maybe can you expand just a bit of that?
Men have forsaken their position of loving and protecting their women and their families. You find women who have to fend for themselves, for everything. Men are left. There was just a back to school recently. I wonder how many fathers showed up for their children, not for the women, for their children, because my child is starting at school. Can I step up and be a man and be a father and be a leader? Right? I looked at social media. It's mainly women who are taking pics. We've got a whole lot of army of women who are doing things for themselves, for abantwana babo. Where are men? So that's why I'm saying you are left with no choice but to fend for your own and to fend for yourself. You are left with no choice to leave your softness and be hard and be strong. Because the person who was supposed to do that, to assume that duty, is nowhere to be found. And when I'm saying nowhere to be found, it could be in a physical sense or in the emotional sense. They are not participants in this thing. You know? So those are the things that I think we should continuously have discussions over to say, again, let's clarify what is the role of men in society and what is the role of women. There are things which are functional, which are there, that are given. But going forward, for us to build better societies, for GBV rates to really go down, we need to look at both parties to say what is the role. Because, I mean, as I said, it's a very touchy issue. There's different dynamics all across board. Because another person will come to say, I met this person, we were high school sweethearts. He changed, you know, and he started slapping me around. I have babies by him. If I leave, where do I go? And Neziwe is an activist on the other side, because Neziwe packed and left. I want people to understand, but Neziwe packed and left, but it wasn't easy, still not easy, because I did not envision seeing my children bekhula ngaphandle kotata wabo. When I got into this thing, I wanted him to be there to do this thing, but he's not, and it's okay. You get what I'm saying? So these are the conversations that we need to look at all these other, and you know, different cases and scenarios, and we say those who are deciding to stay, there are valid reasons for them to decide to stay. Because Neziwe on the other side says, well, no, leave him, and the person will come and say, and then who's going to pay for my children's school fees? As a woman, I'd rather stay and endure the physical abuse or the emotional abuse or the psychological abuse. But for abantwana bam to be in the same, I want them to grow up under the same roof as their father, because I believe that he might not love me the way I'm supposed to be loved, but at least he's around for abantwana. There's a flip side of the coin there. We think that by staying in abusive relationships as women, we are protecting abantwana because of provision, and yet we are doing more damage to the children. Remember the foundation that I spoke about, the environment, the way you grow up? Yes. So you find that those are deciding to stay. We are breeding another generation
potential
of children,
abusers.
Potential abusers. You've decided to stay and they see these things happening. So back to my scenario earlier, what part did I play? And I'm going to pose this. And I'm not trying to be insensitive. I'm using it as my own personal experience and not how it goes through, because I'm still healing. I'm 90% there. The bar is almost full. You know, when you go to therapy, these are the questions in your last that they ask you to say, take a pen and a paper and write down what your galelo, your input was in making things. And when you're a victim, you're like, you are busy with your X-ray reports, but no, show my rape, but we get that. But now let's talk, because now we are trying to build you so that next time, you know, you are a well-rounded, healthy, stable person who is, who's able to have these conversations without fear, who is able to have this conversation without fear of being judged by society. Without wanting to disappoint the aunties and your dad back home to say, ubuye kwendeni, udivosile. You know what I'm saying? Because that's another topic for another day. The stigma around
we still
divorce.
going to have lots of topics, because, I mean, if you look at the gender-based violence topic on its own, it's a big topic, because to your point that you mentioned earlier on, there's a lot of things that men do. But I often wonder, because women do certain things, which does not justify physical abuse. whether perhaps women do call each other out when those things happen and say, you know what, you are letting us down. You're not supposed to do this because what you are doing is contributing or is going to contribute to some of the social ills that we have.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of situations wherein we find that there's a lot that is being said, but women do certain things, but no one calls them out on some of the things that they do. And I want to reiterate again, it doesn't mean that because they do that and therefore
then it justifies
physical abuse. The only thing that I'm saying is that do women, or question that I'm asking, do women call each other out and say, but you are contributing to this situation that you're finding yourself in, and it's likely to lead to this if you continue to do this?
Look, people who know me, they know that I do. I preach sane communities, strong women, in fact, strong leadership, purposeful life everywhere I go. Either in say Jimmy in a steam room, or it's just a social call with a colleague, with my siblings. These are the conversations that you would find me, be having, because it's important. We call each other out, and I don't want to talk a lot about this because it's a conversation we had pre this session.
Yes.
When I said, and I was having, conversations. I keep on having conversations with some of my very close friends. Okay. Where we speak about things that women do, not only to men, by the way, to women as well. And I asked, and this is one of the the topics we had just a couple of days at gym, a few days ago at gym in the steam room, and I call women out. I call them out on the basis of whatever it is that we are talking about. Just to make an example, we were talking about, all things be general around women. And this friend or gym mate said, if a woman decides not to be in a relationship because she's tired that the man is cheating, and when she's questioning the man, because remember that some of them will not physically abuse you. Some of them will be with you and stay with you at home, but they will do whatever that is that they want. You are a non-factor to them. They just don't respect you. They'll go out and cheat. You'll find evidence. You will, fight with him, raise your voice. He'll just look at you and ignore you. He's not going to change. Some of them, they apologize to your face and cry. And even cry, say, I'm not going to do it again. They're going to do it again. Okay. Right? And this woman was saying that, women can stay alone. And what I was advocating for is, I hope for us to find a space where we have healthy relationships, where if I'm in love, I'm able to speak openly about it. That's another thing we don't do as women. We don't speak openly because other women are going to look at you, because there's that thing about you must struggle first in a relationship. Your relationship can't be smooth sailing. There must be something wrong. So we therefore cannot speak about this thing about, guys, because you are expecting, but there's going to be that negative pouring, coming your side. But in any case, she says women must stay alone. Women can stay alone. And I was saying, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to stay alone. I don't want to die alone. I want a man. And I'm specific about it. Because my past experience will not then determine my future. I want to build a life with the person who wants to build a life with me. And they must better take their time to know and learn. But this is me, and there's certain things that I will not compromise on that make up Neziwe as a being. And part of it is my experiences from where I'm coming from. Nakuya, same thing. And then she says, women must stay as they are alone, and let's just leave this man. Let's just leave these men because they are no good, And then she continued to say that because some of the women who are divorced or single, who vouch that they will never get married, they will then leave and go take people's husbands. Hi, Jan. What is taking people's husbands? There's nothing like that. So I said to her, no, there's no such. There is no woman with the women that I've known, right, in the 30 plus years that I've lived.
Okay.
Yes. There is no woman who goes into a man's front door and knock and saying, I'm here to take this man. It is the man's decision to go to woman number one, woman number two, woman number three. I'm answering you when you say, do we call each other out when we utter such careless statements? I do. I do, because she might be saying that. And we might just entertain it and joke about it and leave it as be, but it's a very powerful statement. because you're not addressing the problem.
Yeah.
You're not addressing this mistreating that this man is doing. You are diverting it to the person who has been chased. Do you get where I'm coming from? So I was trying to divert her attention to say, and while we're talking about that, there's other issues we need to talk about.
Hey, we can go on forever with this, but there's one important aspect that I would like us to talk about in terms of this podcast, as part of this broad topic about gender power imbalances, which is the understanding of, yes, we've spoken about GBV, but I think we would need another podcast to probably exploit
maybe types of GBV.
Exactly, types of, and the causes and all the stuff. But that's an area where clearly there's gender power imbalances, GBV. But also linked to GBV is the whole area around rape. And I think, I mean, for a number of people, depending on your age, I mean, people at my age who are 50 years and above, you know, there's still an understanding in terms of rape that, yes, it's that physical penetration of a woman with a penis without her consent, that's what rape is, you know. And maybe I want you to go, you know, and explore and sort of give us, from an activist point of view, especially contemporary understanding of what rape is, whether perhaps it's still limited to that, and also what are the consequences of rape. I mean, if I can bring up an example, there are kids these days that are known as products of rape. And some of us do not think that because we felt that the father was exercising his right as a man or as a husband.
There are a bundle of joys
who
were received, right, as a result of rape.
Okay.
And this is not known. And why it is not known? It is not known because we do not want to talk about this.
Yes.
To your point, if I am in a relationship with you, a recent accident a couple of months ago, and I usually have sex with you, I think let's use that context. Because for so long we thought that rape is only when a stranger attacks you and rapes you, you know, penetrates you without your consent.
Yeah.
No, it even happens within the boundaries of relationships.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I normally have sex with this person, right? Therefore, I can take her whenever I want to. It doesn't work like that. So if your question is, what is rape in a contemporary situation? Rape is you having to penetrate someone without asking them for their consent. Another person will say, but how does that happen? There's things like, you know, morning glory, there's things that just happen. And we are at a point now where those conversations that we spoke about earlier, that when we are ready to engage, you know, in sexual activities as a people, we need to talk about it.
So in other words, are you then saying, for instance, if I want to engage in sex with my wife, I need to ask her and say, do you want to?
I also was like a general commander, you know, of some army. You know, like, you know, this is a chore, therefore. Because that's what it's been taken as. It's been taken that because you are a woman. And it goes back Nalando Yokyalwa, that lobola thing, that guy, that bride, you're talking to the bride to say, you know, you cannot get angry as a married woman from the waist down. That's rubbish. No, I'm a person. I ask that, can we get a groove on? And I'll say, no, I'm not in the mood. I'll use whatever excuse that I want to use. It's okay. No, I have a headache. No, I can't. But you see the way I asked in a playful manner. Which is a language thing as well, that we need to ask ourselves, what language do we use in our relationships, people? How do we communicate with our partners? Yeah? So you'll find that because now it seems as if it's a duty. Yeah? It seems like now it's a duty. And now you've been told before you entered into this thing, but whenever he comes home, the only thing that you want him is that you want food. Where do you want food? You feed him first with a plate of food. Thereafter, you don't have any questions. Whatever he wants to do to you, he does to you. No. It's you know, getting together of people in that form of activity, the sexual activity, it's too spiritual, it's too beautiful to be misused like that. We are at an age now where people open cases against their husbands and say, no, but you've raped me. And the man is very confused. But how did I rape you? You are my wife. Yes, but this is not your body. It's not your body. It goes back to when you are paying ilobola negotiation, you are not buying this person. Yeah? But in normal relationships, abantu abangachatanga, you need to get to a point where you talk about this thing. You know, there are couples who I know who have schedules to say they have sex 4 times a week. They know, you know, it's scheduled, but beyond being scheduled, they put an effort into it. Because before you could have a sexual encounter with a person, there's a build-up from the morning, the words you use, you know, the environment and the atmosphere that you create at home.
Would you say that's what women would like or prefer, you know, like the example that you just made now? Because I think I mean, a lot of men would say, no, I don't really need that. I mean, anytime I'm ready, you know. So, but from a woman's perspective, probably you'd say a woman, in order to get ready for that eventuality, she needs that.
Yeah, but you are ready as a man, but am I ready?
Yeah.
Am I ready as a woman? No, I'm not ready. Therefore, leave me alone.
That's why I was saying that from a woman's point of view, that's what is needed. But for us men, mostly we don't understand that, and we don't know that. And I think that's why this podcast is very important.
Yeah.
Because with us, I mean, if I can ask Josh sitting there, it would take him a few seconds to be ready. He doesn't need the whole morning, you know, that he can, you know. So I think it's that in terms of being educated, in terms of saying, and maybe that's a topic for another podcast again, as to what does sexual intimacy mean for a woman? What does it mean for a man?
You know, we derive the same benefit from sexual intimacy. Don't believe the things you've heard. We derive the same benefits when it's done right.
Okay.
What is not right is thinking that as a man you can exercise your power because you're my wife or you're my girlfriend, therefore this body, I own it. Yeah. We're finding ourselves sitting here wanting now to define about what is rape. No, rape is when you're penetrating someone without getting their consent. And it even goes further to say she might look that she's ready. You might even have evidence, but you think that she might be ready. Still ask. We are there now. We need to ask, and when a woman says no, either she says no in a moaning voice, or she says no. And no is a no, and a no is a complete sentence. There is no explanation there.
Well, I'm glad you're saying that, because I mean, I grew up in an era where no wasn't really a no. It meant work harder. I mean, that
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying, because I mean, I remember even there was some, you know, Elokshini. Yes. You know, a guy would call you up and he would say no, and they will still persist and chase after you. People need to understand that now. When a woman says no, she's not playing hard to get. She's not mistaken. If she wants to come back, if she wants to say yes, she'll come back to you and say yes. But when she says no, be a gentleman enough, be a peace builder, walk away. Yeah, zip up your pants. A no is a no. We're talking now in the context of relationships. And I wonder, sitting here today discussing this, how many married women have been asked consent before they engage in sexual activity? Because a lot of bundle of joys, I'm a product. I wouldn't know. But we are at a stage now that we need to educate the generation that is coming, even the ones who are here, to say it is important to us to always be in the same page with your person. Yeah.
Neziwe, I did say that I am looking forward to this conversation that we're going to have. And I must say that I personally have gained a lot from the discussion that we've had and the conversation that we have. Thank you very much for firstly being open and being willing to share with us your experiences. And it's something that I think everyone that is listening and watching this podcast surely will learn something from, and
I hope so
be
too.
Built. And you and I, and perhaps even other people, we have a job to do in terms of continuing with these conversations. Frank conversations that are meant to build our society and reduce the social ills that we currently have. Because it's only through these conversations that we're going to be able to sort of learn from each other. We don't see each other as experts in terms of the fields that we talk about.
No, we're not.
But we're just sharing our experiences in terms of what we have seen and also what we have experienced. And thank you very much much for this. And I hope that when we invite you again
That would be great.
to come for further podcasts, you will still be willing. And maybe we would invite some more people and we would have a debate on some of the issues so that we can hear from different perspectives in terms of what other people think about.
Robust conversations are quite needed. Yeah.
Exactly, about the things that we've spoken about. And thank you for coming and watching and listening to Neziwe Nkukwana.
Thank you for having me. Nkukwana without an H.
Yeah, without an H. Nkukwana. You can also follow her, I think, on social media.
Yes, on social media. I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
I think it's _@Zinati. But if you can just Google my name, you'll see all my handles, ID, Twitter, Facebook. Okay. So to continue with these conversations, Mbulelo, we're going to have a session that's called Behind Closed Doors, the one I mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
It's only women. Maybe I'll invite George to come just to help us with some.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I'll invite him to come. But he's not to smile or say anything. He'll just be there working.
Okay.
Because we need to talk as women.
Yes.
It's a very huge issue that we have women against. And we need to talk. We need to talk as women behind closed doors.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You.
Follow us, Contemporary Conversations SA, on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And also subscribe on our website, Contemporary Conversations SA. You'll also get books there that you can read that cover a number of topics that we have dealt with Neziwe and also other topics. And also watch some of our intriguing documentaries that you will find again on Contemporary Conversations SA. And also please do participate on the blogs that you will find on the website, because they also deal with some of the social issues that we're supposed to deal with and find answers to. Thank you very much for watching and also listening. Until next time when we have another live podcast, be blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neziwe.
Thanks for having me. Oh, wow.
The books are available online. You can order the books online on Contemporary Conversations SA. And I'd like to encourage people, let's start talking. Let's talk about these things. Let's have conversations. Let's have situations wherein we school each other. We sort of make each other grow in terms of these various topics that are sort of sensitive, but bedevil our lives and also our relationships.